Well, good morning. Thanks for joining us today
Hello,
on our
Tom, can you
116th.
hear me?
I can hear you, David. Sounds great. We'll have you join us in a second, David. Okay. Glad to have you joining us.
Thank you.
All right. So we're on episode 116. Thanks for joining us. Also subscribe to our YouTube channel, and this is where you can check out past episodes of Lightbulb Moments. We certainly have had some great episodes in the past, and we're going to have a great one today. I'm Tom Kuhn. I'm host and curator of Lightbulb Moments. Remember, money's not the most important thing in life, but it's reasonably close to oxygen on the gotta have it scale. At Qnity, what we're here to do is to help you go from complexity, overwhelm, and confusion to a clear path towards prosperity, using new rules, which is simple, visual, and actionable. Remember to prosper, manage your ATM, the three currencies we have in life: attention, time, and money. And it's not lost on us that you're spending your precious time with us today. So thank you for that, whether you're joining us live or listening to the recording. We love hearing from you in terms of guest ideas, suggestions, anything. Just stay connected. This is a roundtable. It is in the spirit of hearing from our community, and we love hearing from you. Last session, we had Gerard Scarpazzi from Hairbrained on, and a great session, seeing a little different side of Gerard, which was wonderful, and his own kind of journey through financial management, especially as a small business owner. Today, I'm thrilled. We have David Raccuglia joining us. It's listed that he's from American Crew, but there's so much more to what David does today. And in fact, we're not even going to talk about American Crew today. We're going to be talking about something very different, a special talent that David is going to be talking to us about today. Can't wait to get to David, which we'll do in a couple minutes here. At Qnity, we're here to provide financial wellness for pro beauty, whether it's students through our Money EDU, for professionals through Money Pro, or small business owners and managers through Money SBO. Save the dates. The fill is coming up. It is, 2.5 weeks away, I think. And my gosh, do we have a great group assembled for Austin. May 21st in the evening is a special session. It is a Lightbulb Moments at the Phil. And then on Monday and Tuesday, we'll actually have the Phil conference. We hope to see you there. We do still have some space left. And there is room at the host hotel, The Line, which is an amazing hotel in Austin. So hopefully you'll be joining us and booking your hotel if you haven't yet. We are actually very close to a sellout, which is a big stretch of the imagination when we thought about this last year, given this is only our second year. And a big focal point of the conference really does relate with the tools. And this whole philosophy around a tool can actually be a great teacher. And I love this quote. It's almost a theme quote that we have at the Phil, because we do release new tools as well as updates of existing ones. If you want to teach people a new way of thinking, don't bother trying to teach them. Instead, give them a tool, the use of which will lead to new ways of thinking. Our theme this year is zoom in, zoom out. Zooming in is really filling the gaps in your business, of which they center on profitability, execution, and growth, as well as leadership and engagement. Zoom out is taking the time to fill your bucket by getting away from your business and to refill and to recharge, which we all need. The Impact Awards actually are not open. They are closed, and the winners have been decided. And I believe that we're going to be announcing them next week and notifying them over the next week. We have 15 winners, as we did last year. This is 3 winners for each gap, 3 winners for profitability, sort of narrowing the gap between where you were and where you want to be. So profitability, execution, growth, engagement, and leadership. So we've got some really great awards that we'll be celebrating while at the Phil. We'll also be awarding on Sunday night 2 golden light bulbs. These are last year's recipients, Sam Bricata and Megan Jasper, and they will be both on present to be awarding this year's 2 golden light bulbs to 2 mystery recipients, which we're super excited about. My light bulb moment last week was really about the data project, a compensation study, as as we move into the 2022 version. We've had a lot of advocates out there for the data project because we understand that this collaboration helps all of us. It is open, so we have opened up. Several of you have already participated in submitting taking the survey and submitting the data. We have completely streamlined the process, we made it simpler and quicker, but we do need a lot of participation. Sonia can put in the chat whatever you need to help jumpstart the process, but essentially it's 2 steps. You fill out a survey and then you submit W-2 data into a private portal that we created for each participating company. So we'd love to have participation. We've already got some great participation, but we want to release some early findings at the fill. So there is a sense of urgency around this. And we look forward to continuing the research and data that's needed to help tell a better story about a career in beauty that's really based upon data and not stories. My light bulb moment this week has to do with mental health. And we've talked about mental health and we've had guests on this platform in the past. But there's about 3 things that happened in the last week, including a member of our team being at a school conference. And on the school conference, there was a slide that suggested, let me see if I can pull it up. Essentially, it was when asked school owners what the #1 struggle they have right now is the mental health of their staff and their students. As a result of that, we had planned on a mental health segment at the Phil, but we are looking at making a more robust segment at the Phil to further explore this and to really empower leaders on how that they can best cope themselves, and then also provide resources and other tools and other systems to help people with mental health issues. All right, now I am going to take a quick look here because it looks like David might be having some challenges coming in here. So just I'm going to pull an audible here. And Sonia, I would like to, if you wouldn't mind, would you just grab the mic and just talk a little bit more about the compensation study, a little bit more about getting started, and then I'm going to resume a little communication with David to help him get on, okay?
Sure thing. Yeah, it looks like David just popped back in, but in the meantime, while we're waiting for him to confirm that everything's good on his end, we would love to have you participate in the comp study. I shared the link in the chat. You just start by clicking on that link and filling out the survey. It should take about 20 to 30 minutes to fill out the information that we're looking for from the survey. At the end of that process, you're going to get an email from me with an invitation to fill out your W-2 data for your company. And so you'll be communicating with me and you will just complete these 2 super simple steps, the survey, which is about 20 to 30 minutes long, and then the W-2 data submission, which will take between 30 and 60 minutes. And we have really streamlined the process. I am here to support you every step of the way. So please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions, and thank you for participating.
Thanks much, Sonia. All right, so I'm going to bring David to the mic. Good morning, David. How are you?
Good morning, Tom. How are you?
I'm doing great. You know, I'm how darn excited I am to have you as a guest on here. And I can't wait to get to the conversation we're going to have. So, but before we get you talking, I got to read your background, okay? Because It's a hell of a background. A trained barber, salon owner, entrepreneur, professional photographer, creative director, and the beauty industry executive, best known for being the founder of American Crew. His hands-on and creatively driven leadership in building American Crew brand has led to an over 25-year success and growth track record. Note to everybody here, this next session, and sort of a little clue about what we're going to be talking about today. David is also a renowned photographer, has produced a diverse portfolio characterized by portraits of unique individuals. From shooting images of the well-known to creating portraits of unique individuals, David's celebrity portraits have included cultural icons such as Jack Nicholson, Ray Charles, James Brown, Horst Rechelbacher, and Vidal Sassoon. David, it's great to see you.
Great to see you, Tom.
So we are going to spend time talking about your photography in a few minutes here. And I think it'll be apparent to the group why we're talking about your photography. But first and foremost, it's a great background. You have a lot of experience in the industry. And I'm sure you've seen a lot of changes in the world of barbering. And, you probably could and take an entire session on barbering and changes and trends, but I think we'd be remiss if we didn't get some of your points of view, maybe just spend a few minutes talking about that.
Well, sure. Well, I started my career as a barber. I went to barber school first in the late 70s, and it was probably a pretty bad time to go to barber school, considering no one wanted to be barbered back then. That was a quite groovy hair at the time, longer styled. Barber styling became a word. But, I always loved the classics. The classics are what drew me. I come from an Italian family with a lot of olive oil in the hair, and I look at old pictures of my family, and they had pompadours and they had slicked back hair, and hair was very important to them. Many of my relatives were very hair centric. This is the best way to put it. If you like John Travolta, don't touch my hair in Saturday Night Fever. But I loved it, and I got into hair, and of course, I loved the craft of barbering. But then ultimately what I looked at was really wanting to be better at all of it, and at that time, Vidal Sassoons was at their just heyday of beautiful short hair. And, it was a time where I was drawn to the craft of cutting. So I ultimately left the United States. I moved to England. I lived in England for on and off for 3 years. Worked for several companies. Jingles was the main company that I worked with. And I was a 20-something-year-old cutting women's hair in the Mecca of hair, London, traveling around the world, teaching people the craft and the technique that Jingles was known for. I mean, it was heaven. I don't know that I could have asked for anything better. Then I spent the next 6 years, 5 years, 7 years with Jingles. I think I was with them 9 total. And then I ultimately did what people do. They get married and want to have children. And I opened up a salon in Chicago with Lawrence Haggerty. And we started a salon called Art and Science, which we were a great salon. We education based, very excited about it. Still a great salon today. It's just neither one of us are there. But we, I never really got over my love of men's grooming and barbering. So I decided to do a photo project, not behind the camera, me behind the hair, with a great photographer named Mark Havrilyak, who I met in Russia on an editorial shoot for American Salon in 1989. I was doing the hair, and he and I said, let's work together. And I said, great, let's do a project. So when I approached him to do a men's book, only men's hair, he thought I was kind of crazy, I think, at the time. But I said, listen, I think it's important. I think we should create a collection of men's hair that dates back to classics and updates to modern. So we did it. It was called Groom. That book came out in 1992. I borrowed $40,000 from the bank to get it printed and shot. I had to get my dad to co-sign for it. I remember he wasn't too happy about it, but he knew he thought it was possible. And that book sold the 5,000 copies in a week. I realized at that time that the appetite for what I loved was it was there. So I got excited, and Lawrence Haggerty was my partner at the time, and we got excited, and we decided to work on a grooming brand. I happened to find, when I was teaching in Japan, I found a great water-based pomade. I never saw anything like it before. And I happened to come to your amazing city in Minneapolis. I met a couple of guys from a manufacturing firm that was best in class, made a lot of great brands in the industry. We collaborated. We started American Crew, and that's how I got into barbering. However, I had to slug it out for about 15 years where there was attention to men, but not an obsession with men. I think we entered about 10 years ago an obsession for men grooming. Barbers are wildly great craftsmen, and they're doing an amazing job today rebirthing the craft of barbering. But that was only in the last 10 years. Barbershops have popped up everywhere all over the world. And it was interesting to me because I remember being in Mexico on vacation, and I'd look at these waiters and people that would come to our rest. They had amazing, perfect fades, perfect, but they were like $2. The craft to be that good and get that little really bothered me. And so education became important for me to get barbers to try to understand that the mix of proper scissor techniques with the amazing ability to fade is how you are going to take this craft to the next level. And so American Crew, based on an education program that lived with that ethos, resonated over the years. And look at men today. We look amazing. We have beards. We have great beards. We have long hair, short hair, shaved heads. We look like rock and rollers. We look like classics. And that's what happens when the ball moves up the field. A whole industry is created. And I'm glad to have been on the boat doing that. So
let's transition into photography here. So we'll keep sort of bite-sized chunks here, but you evolved into photography, really perfecting that craft, and jumping ahead to, and I don't want to skip too many steps here, but obviously you did the collections for American Crew, a lot of iconic collections and just brilliant photography for the brand. But how did you end up branching out sort of out of the beauty industry to start taking portraits of, I think this is a good time to maybe show people some of the other work you've done. How did you go beyond just the needs for American Crew and then start doing stuff like this or this? So, I mean, here, and this is a very poor example, everybody, of me just pulling together some Instagram pages, not doing justice to the work, but this is a hell of a portfolio. How did you get into portrait photography?
I never really got into it. My kids would not have been able to go to college through my photography skills. That was never a moneymaker for me. It was always a passion. And I just threw my hat in the ring and was, happened to get to know people that had celebrity agents and knew different things. And I was collected, a body of work of American. A lot of my work was men. I surely enjoyed shooting women, but I resonated towards men because my imagery from American Crew was very male dominant. So it made me look better at that, I think, than my beauty work. And then I loved music, and I threw my hat in the ring in the music industry. I'd go backstage at concerts, and I just think it's manic energy that ultimately can turn into talent sometimes. I mean, I know how to take a picture now. That doesn't mean I'm a great photographer. Photography is a time, it's an era, it's doing it right, the right everything. And, you can't sort of stumble in and out of it. I stay in it, and I work very, very hard to have a signature look and that sort of thing. But, I was able to, through just personal relationships in the music industry and in the acting industry and the movie industry, I was able to work myself into an option for them to get their portrait taken by me.
So looking at the black and white, or mostly black and white on the left side of, at least left side of my screen here, Take us through, I mean, like Ray Charles. Sorry, I don't want to necessarily go too deep into the background for all these photos, but what was that like to be in a room with him and to be able to take his photo?
Well, I tell this story the most because he was my favorite person to photograph.
I didn't know that. Okay.
It was amazing. I was a fan of Ray Charles, and when I photographed him, I was led into his studio in LA. We set up a little lighting setup, and we waited for him then to come, and he ended up coming and going to his piano, which was in the room. That's not the picture. There's a picture of him that I shot with a piano, and he started playing and playing, and he was, just couldn't look any better. He's in a suit, and he was kind of humming, and it was just an experience that was hard to describe. And then he stopped, and he looked over, and he said, just kind of looked to the side and said, "How am I doing?" He was completely knew that I was, it was just I didn't say a word. I was just sort of there quietly snapping away. And, it was just amazing. And then he was such a professional and such a kind man. You can tell when you photograph somebody, it's like being a waiter or a waitress, any sort of service industry or a hairdresser. You can tell what people's kindness levels are and what their tolerance levels are. He was incredibly kind and incredibly willing to want to make a good photo for us, both of us,
Well, so you've also taken some photos of some industry icon, and here's Horst, and you along with Horst, I assume this is his dachshund, and you were a younger man back then. Tell us about taking the picture of Horst.
Well, Horst was one of my mentors and one of the coolest people the hair industry was ever lucky enough to have. He was living in his lake house out in, you'll probably know the exact town out.
The Osceola, I think, Wisconsin. Yep.
River house on the river.
Yep.
Go spend the day, had a wonderful lunch with him. And I'd met him before. I've worked with him before. I did Congress a few times once as a hairdresser, actually. So I was very enamored with his brand and his aesthetic. And he has a huge photo collection. One of the just beautiful art photo collection. So it was great. And Horst was very easy to shoot, very fun to shoot, inquisitive. And that was a fun day and another memorable day. But
we have, of course, Vidal Sassoon,
who was like shooting an actor. He knew how handsome he was. He knew every pose. He was fantastic. I had a very good time with him. He was very funny, very social. Nice one of me there with him wondering why my hair wasn't up to his standard, probably. But he was an amazing subject and an amazing man. We all owe him and always will.
Then you have this. This was a cover, wasn't it? Or was this for a magazine? Or
yeah, it was one of my just early, very fun jobs. It was a fold-out magazine for American Salon called Industry Icons, and we have Gene Braw from Paul Mitchell, Vidal Sassoon, Trevor Sorby, Tim and Annie, Tim Hartley and Annie Humphreys from Vidal Sassoon, Horst, Anthony Muscola, Irving Rusk, and Robert Labetta.
Wow.
And that was kind of a fun project because, I would just kind of grab them. I had to go to these people and get them and put them on a backdrop and shoot them in order to put them together. That was done in several countries and behind the scenes at hair shows. And, but yeah, it was great.
So we have a topic du jour, a topic today that is really a fun thing to let everybody know about. Now so I got the privilege to know you, geez, it was maybe 10, 14 years ago, something like that. We lost touch with each other, and I was thrilled to have you join the Beauty Changes Lives board. And so now we're fellow board members on the Beauty Changes Lives with Beauty Changes Lives, and it's really great to see you. And you've been giving back your entire life, but give back in a new way. And so you're going to be giving back to the industry with something that's coming up here.
Right.
So one of the things I've always wondered is, how do I get a portrait from David Raccuglia? You know, how do you get one? Well, you probably have to spend a lot of money. You probably have to do a lot of different things. But I thought, wow, how cool would it be if we could get portraits by the master himself? And so let's kind of announce to the group what you're doing, okay?
Sure.
So David has agreed to, as a donation to Beauty Changes Lives, have 20 sittings, 20 private sittings in Austin on Sunday, May 21st. And we are going to auction off those sittings, only 20. And David's going to take a private portrait of these lucky recipients. And you're going to be working hard that day, because 20 portraits, you know, over a time frame of probably a good half day, maybe 4 to 6 hours. But you got a Digitech coming. You're going to bring all the equipment, and this is going to be a opportunity for 20 people to have their portrait taken by you, David. We're thrilled about this, and we've only got 20 slots. They have to be present in Austin to have the portrait taken. But tell us a little bit more about what this experience is going to look like and what they can expect with and so what the proceeds will do is they will go to Beauty Changes Lives to support career campaigns, other campaigns to help with the human capital crisis. David, this is a very generous thing for you to do, so thank you. Tell us a little bit more about why you're excited about this.
Well, I love shooting portraits. You know, portraits an intimate interpretation of the experience of that moment. You know, you're there in Austin with my colleagues, and you know what you look for. It's unfortunately, you know, I'm not a realist. I do what I can to make people look as good as they physically can. I'm not there to just share the experience of what, you know, it's lit to look beautiful and classic and timeless, and a simple gesture and a simple moment. But you know, I love doing it, and you know, it's interesting because I want to make an heirloom for them. It's something that day in their life was a great experience. We met, we did some artwork together, and they're able to take that home and have that as a memory. And I always think that's great. You know, it's sometimes a portrait isn't as beautiful, but it's passionate. Sometimes you know, it isn't necessarily beauty in the classic sense of beauty, where high cheekbones and red lips, or, you know, perfect head of hair for a man and no double chin. Sometimes it just you know, you get the light and you use the light to carve a beautiful image out. So they're going to have to trust me that I'm bringing my carving equipment, and I'm going to do my best to give a beautiful portrait. They won't be full length. They'll be an intimate. I like to get as close to the eyes as possible in a portrait. Even if they're not looking at the camera, they need to be present in an experience of some sort of gesture. So, I mean, it'll be very cool, and I'll do my best to make that something that they like. I sort of work with people. You know, sometimes you get it in 5 frames, and sometimes you need 50. Sometimes you need 100. You know, there's a process of collaborating. So I look forward to it. It'll be fun.
I love you use the word heirloom, because that's really what it would be. And, you know, just as far as for those that are listening in here, this is something that you could bid on a sitting for yourself. It could be for a teammate. It could be for a friend. It could be for another participant. So the portrait that you would be, you know, purchasing can be for, you just have to be there that day, because this is like a one-day ding, you know, one shot. So
Right. And believe we should explain. I'm planning on, it can be in color. I would urge everyone to understand that the timeless quality of a black and white portrait is going to be a little more elegant in a small setting. In this sort of setting, I have a lighting style that I can make look very Rembrandt-like in light. It has a very elegant quality. So my choice is to start in black and white. I'm not shooting film. It'll be a digital capture. So if color was something you wanted to see, it would be available to you. But I have a system in order to achieve a very good black and white portrait. It's the way I light and the way it's finally processed out. So that would be ultimately what I would love to do with you, with the subject. But I'm open to a color rendition.
Perfect. And I think Michelle from our team already put something in the chat about how to, the silent auction will officially open soon. Soon is the end of this week or the beginning of next week. If you'd like to have early access to bid on the photo session, please email Michelle. So, all right, so Michelle has put in the link how to email to her so that you can stay connected on this. All right, well, there's another part of what you're contributing. And again, to keep clear here, what we're really talking about is an opportunity to raise some funds for a nonprofit that is doing some amazing things. And so one method of generosity from you is the 20 portraits, but there's something else that you are gracious enough that we'll be doing. And so I need to pull this up here. So if you'll bear with me. All right, whoops. I made a little boo-boo there, so bear with me, everybody. You're gonna have to see me scroll through. All right, so, okay, all right. So this is what the auction site would look like. There'll be 20 sessions, and they'll be timed and all that stuff. And so these are for the individual, the 20 portrait sitting. In addition, we're also going to make available, with David's generosity, the ability to purchase portraits from the existing collection. And we're going to curate some. We're also going to get them posted on there. And tell us a little bit about what that would look like in terms of what they might receive if they decided to buy something from your existing collection, whether it's Horst, whether it's Vidal Sassoon, or whether it's one of these celebrities. What would they be getting? My favorite way of printing these would be a 20 by 24. It'll be printed on archival paper, sign print, and I will have an edition. I want to keep it legit, so we'll do an edition of. I thought we had talked about, Tom, maybe 10 images we were going to give the choices of. Yep. With an edition of only 10 per individual print, which means there's 100 options, 10 of 10, and they'll get a very ready to be framed archival print, digital archival print from me. And then now, to be clear, course and numbered for the 1 to 10 collection. Okay, and you're signing them too? Of course, yes. Yeah. So, and just to be clear for our audience, you do not need to be at the Phil to participate in this. This will be a silent auction, and you'll be able to do this prior to the Phil. I think we might keep it a little bit open after the Phil if we still have some portraits available. So to be clear, the 20 individual private portraits are just for those at the Phil. Images from the existing collection would be, you don't need to be present. David, I'm going to come back to you for a moment, but we also have, I also suggest that there's, so we have more auction items that we're going to have on this silent auction. And Janet Williams is also a Beauty Changes Lives board member, and she has graciously agreed to provide a culture assessment, provide a workshop, and call it a pathways package. And Janet really has a cultural consulting firm that practices care. Her acronym is for Courage, Abundance, Resilience, and Education as a core value. And she really helps the beauty and wellness industry embrace these concepts. So this is a package, and she's only offering one of these. I know that Heath Smith at Ruiz is bringing Janet in to do something with this team. So Janet is another silent auction item that will be available, and we have some other ones coming. But David, I'm looking at the clock here, and we're moving into wrapping up. I can't wait. I'm so darn excited. You saw I was like a kid in a candy shop when we were talking about this. I was so excited. When I first asked you to do this, I was like, I was really a little bit kind of tentative, a little shy, a little almost apologetic. And you're like, hell yeah, I love doing this kind of stuff. And you were all in at the start. So thank you for that. And I'm super excited and thankful for what you're doing.
Well, thank you, Tom. It was great being on here, and I look forward to Austin.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
All right, David, we will talk to you very soon.
Bye.
All right. Okay, let's see here. Let's see what else we have here today before we wrap up. We're also going to have other silent auction items on there, so stay tuned on that. Educational item, tickets for upcoming events, etc. Saving the date, reminder, the fill is coming up in 2.5 weeks. We are almost at a full house. So if you are planning on going, make sure you sign up, because we want to guarantee you're able to be there. I also want to thank our sponsors, Lightheart Sanders, as well as Ally Health, which is virtual care, including virtual mental health care. Also, just a reminder about Aaron's Money O2 podcast. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we love hearing from you. So thanks for joining us this week. I'll take a second to read the chat and say hello to people privately, but we're 39 minutes after the hour, which is a perfect time to officially wrap up. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next week. Thanks again. Bye.